Horror movies make for a very important part of pop culture, and they have also introduced us to a world full of demonic entities, ranging from fallen angels to evil spirits that possess human bodies. These demons often vary in their power and abilities, but they mostly have a reputation for spreading evil or possessing the souls of other creatures. While demons are almost included in every other horror movie, some demonic entities are more famous than others, and have even become pop culture icons. Today, we will have a look at these cinematic demons and tell you all about their spine-chilling features and powers. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Bughuul from Sinister. Bughuul was first introduced as a strange pagan deity who is known for manipulating young children into killing their own families before feeding on their souls. He was the primary antagonist of the movie Sinister, and he made these children commit horrific crimes before he fed on them. He was first depicted in some engravings during the Dark Ages, which were later destroyed, as they held the power to hypnotize anyone who looked at them. In the year 1966, Bughuul started manipulating young children, and he would even convince them to murder their families, and also record their wrongdoings on a Super 8 film reel. These films introduced the families before the child attacked them, and the child would usually even make a shushing gesture at the camera before proceeding to kill their loved ones. Bughuul could be spotted in the background of these incriminating films, and he would even manipulate these children to draw pictures of the murders and then label the dead bodies on them. Besides drawing their parents and siblings, these children also drew Bughuul and labeled him as Mr. Boogie, after which Bughuul would go ahead and consume their souls. There are many such films that were recorded due to Bughuul's manipulation, and some of them are labeled as Pool Part 6, Barbecue 79, and Lawn Work 86. Each of these films depicted a particular family's murder at the hands of a child, while Bughuul can be spotted in the background in the reflection of the water or behind a car. He was quite a nightmarish creature with pale skin and long hair, and he also seemed to lack eyes and a mouth. It is also said that his mouth was sewn shut by his brother Moloch, who punished him for imitating his sacrificial rituals. Bughuul is essentially a sadistic deity who takes pleasure in forcing children to kill their families, and no one has managed to defeat him to date.
By the judge of the living and the dead, to depart from the servant of God.
Pazuzu from The Exorcist, 1973. Pazuzu is a terrifying demon from Babylonian culture, where he is considered to be the king of wind demons. He also appears as the main antagonist of the Exorcist franchise, where his face is portrayed by Eileen Dietz. Pazuzu typically looked over a pagan temple and would murder anyone who dared to step foot in the temple. In the Exorcist movie, Pazuzu possesses the body of a girl named Regan and grows more and more powerful after gaining control over her body. Eventually, the young girl's mother seeks the help of two priests to get rid of Pazuzu, but the demon gives them a hard time before finally leaving her body. He also makes her commit some horrific acts, such as spinning her head 180 degrees and performing unspeakable acts with a crucifix. He later appeared in Exorcist Legion, where he comes across the soul of the Gemini killer and then transfers it to the body of Father Damien Carras. Pazuzu kept returning to the franchise to possess other beings, and he later possesses Regan's daughter, Casey, in the Exorcist television series. However, he is eventually killed off by Regan, who gains enough willpower to protect her daughter. When Pazuzu gains a physical form, Regan beats him to death and then leaves him to presumably die. Pazuzu was also known for torturing his victims and making them commit heinous acts, such as abusing others or even coercing others into performing sexual acts. He can also perform dark magic, cast illusions, and even possess others to a point where he would drive them to insanity. And he seems to always return no matter how many times he is banished. Surtur from Thor, Ragnarok, 2017. Also known as the Lord of Muspelheim, Surtur was a fire demon who played a significant role in the prophecy of Ragnarok. He appeared in Thor Ragnarok in 2017, and it was stated that his presence would kickstart the downfall of the Asgardian Empire. In order to defeat this prophecy, Odin had already defeated Surtur, and then confined him to Muspelheim in the past. Surtur was also powered by the Eternal Flame, and Odin further ensured that his prophecy didn't turn out to be true by taking this flame back to Asgard. However, Surtur sought to start Ragnarok and spent a lot of time plotting his revenge against Odin and Asgard. During the events of Thor Ragnarok, Surtur captured Thor and even locked him up in Muspelheim. However, Thor managed to defeat Surtur with the help of his hammer Mjolnir and even killed him. While Surtur was allegedly dead, his power and essence were absorbed into his crown. Thor later took this crown and locked it inside Odin's vault, but he eventually needed Surtur's power in order to defeat Hela. When Hela took over Asgard, Thor asked Loki to place Surtur's crown in the eternal flame and resurrect him so that he might get rid of Hela. Since the Asgardians had already been evacuated, Thor did not mind that Surtur might destroy Asgard, and he turned out to be of great help in getting rid of Hela. In the process of fulfilling his prophecy, Surtur not only destroyed Asgard and Hela, but also eradicated himself. Surtur was one of the most powerful beings in the universe, and his main powers included his ability to manipulate fire to create giant waves of fiery energy. He typically used his Twilight Sword to create fire, and he could also be resurrected with the help of the Eternal Flame, which acted as his source of power. Azazel from Fallen. Azazel is considered to be one of the most powerful demons of all time, and he had quite an intimidating presence in the 1998 supernatural thriller film Fallen. Azazel also did not have any physical form, and he could only be seen by others when he possessed the body of a human being. He had the ability to possess any being by simply touching them, and he could even possess animals, such as cats. He was a fallen angel who was initially banished from heaven, after which he was determined to spread evil and stir chaos wherever he went. He took sadistic pleasure in tormenting human beings and viewed them as toys that could be easily discarded at his convenience. In the movie, Azazel is portrayed as a fallen angel who possesses a serial killer named Reese, and then compels him to commit murders. After Detective Hobbs captures Reese and then executes him, he learns about another copycat killer who has been imitating Reese's MO. We later realize that Azazel was behind all these murders, as he has been possessing different beings and then making them kill others. However, Azazel has a hard time taking control of Detective Hobbs' body, and the detective even figures out that Azazel can be drawn out of his host body by speaking the Syrian Aramaic language. As the movie progresses, Hobbs becomes obsessed with capturing Azazel, and he even gets framed for several murders committed by the fallen angel. Azazel later possesses Hobbs' partner, Jonesy, and the two fight over a gun when Jonesy is fatally wounded. While Detective Hobbs rejoices at the fact that Azazel is trapped within Jonesy's dying body, the fallen angel manages to survive by transferring his soul into a cat's body. While Detective Hobbs believes that Azazel has finally been defeated, the demonic entity possesses a cat and declares that he will continue to take over more souls. Pinhead from Hellraiser. Also known as Captain Elliot Spencer, Pinhead was the main antagonist of the Hellraiser series, where he rules over a sadomasochistic religion known as the Order of the Gash. This religion included several demonic torturers known as the Cenobites, and Pinhead could summon them with the help of a device known as the Lament Configuration. He also had several iron pins stuck to his skull, which explains why he's known as Pinhead. Pinhead had quite a reputation for being an intelligent demonic entity, and he also had several powers, such as the ability to perform magic, warp reality, and even manipulate others. He usually tortured any being who tried to open the Lament Configuration box, and he could turn any living being into a Cenobite. Pinhead also derived pleasure in killing his victims by tearing their bodies and subjecting them to slow torture and pain. Pinhead eventually underwent cosmetic surgery to turn into a Cenobite, and he had a smooth, hairless body that had been bleached white in this form. He was initially an educated soldier who served in World War I, after which he suffered from PTSD and survivor's guilt. He eventually led a hedonistic life and discovered the Lament Configuration during a trip to British India, after which he turned into the Cenobite Pinhead. He served the Dark Lord, Leviathan, who commanded him to lead the Cenobites and embrace this new life. The Cenobites were extremely terrifying beings, and their main goal was to drag their victims to their realm and subject them to eternal suffering after they came across the Lament Configuration box. Across the Hellraiser franchise, Pinhead typically tortured any being who tried to solve the Lament Configuration puzzle box, until a TV reporter named Joey Summerskill managed to banish him from Earth in the third Hellraiser movie. However, Pinhead later returned in the fourth movie after a demon princess summoned him, and he was also part of Hellraiser Inferno, where he tortured a man named Joseph Thorne for opening the Lament configuration box. The Lamia from Drag Me to Hell. While the Lamia had a cartoonish appearance, it was a feared entity and was undoubtedly one of the most powerful demons of all time. It had the head of a goat with the body of a human, and it typically appeared when someone put a curse on another being. In the movie Drag Me to Hell, a gypsy woman puts a curse on Christine Brown, who then gets subjected to the torment of Lamia. The curse entailed that the Lamia would torture Christine for 3 days, after which it would drag her to hell and feed on her soul. Typically, the curse could be stopped by passing it along to someone else, and then killing them while the Lamia possessed their body. In the movie, a gypsy woman curses one of Christine's coat buttons, after which Christine visits a fortune teller, who tells her that evil forces are hunting her. Christine tries to undo the curse by seeking out the gypsy woman, but she soon learns that she has died, and that there is no way to make peace with her. A local named Sean Sandina tries to help Christine, but she dies, and Christine eventually decides to dig up the gypsy woman's grave. She then leaves an envelope with the cursed button on her grave, and also follows the traditional gypsy custom of leaving a gift for the deceased. While Christine was relieved to get rid of the curse finally, she was horrified to find out that she had used the wrong envelope. The curse finds its way back to her, and the Lamia eventually drags Christine to hell. The Lamia was quite a sadistic demon who took great delight in dragging mortal souls to hell, and it also had quite a temper. It also had a wide range of powers, such as the ability to alter reality, cast illusions, and possess animals as well as humans, and it could even track down any being with the help of any cursed item they owned. The Creeper from the Jeepers Creepers series. The Creeper was the main antagonist of the horror series known as Jeepers Creepers, and he was first introduced as an ancient demon who hunts human organs. The Creeper typically eats these organs, or replaces his bodily organs with these fresh ones, and he was also known for hunting for 23 days every 23rd spring. He had a strong sense of smell, and he could even determine the taste of his victims by just smelling their scent and detecting fear in it. The Creeper has been around for hundreds of years, and the Aztecs believed he was a serpent god named Quetzalcoatl. There are many origin stories surrounding the Creeper, and his skin is covered in green scales, while his hands have hooks instead of fingers. He has good knowledge of human biology, and he is skilled enough to cut out human organs and sew their bodies so that they remain alive. He also indulges in making grotesque, disturbing art by stitching the skin and bodies of his victims, and then using these pieces as decoration for his home. In the first Jeepers Creepers movie, the Creeper sets his eyes on siblings Trish and Darry, and finally decides to feed on Darry. After a movie-long chase, the film ends with the Creeper removing his own eyes before consuming Darry's eyes, which later seemed to become the Creeper's eyes. The second movie in the franchise began only 3 days after Darry died, and the Creeper then targeted a new victim, Billy Taggart. The entire franchise revolves around the Creeper as he continues to attack more victims before finally going into hibernation for another 23 years. Valak from The Conjuring 2. Also known as the Nun or Crooked Man, Valak appears as an antagonist throughout the Conjuring series, but he especially plays a significant role in Conjuring 2. He first appeared in the written text of Pseudemonarchia Daemonum, and he is essentially a fallen angel who was banished to hell by Saint Michael the Archangel. He first appeared in The Nun, where he took the form of a nun who walked the halls of the Carta Monastery in Romania. Valak killed many nuns in the monastery until Sister Irene managed to seal the rift connecting Valak to the monastery. In Conjuring 2, Valak was present at the site of Ronald DeFeo Jr.'s murder, while the police and paranormal investigator Lorraine Warren looked into any demonic presence at the scene. Valak then started hunting Lorraine, and he later also targeted a young lady named Janie Hodgson, who lived with a family in the United Kingdom. He also appeared as the Crooked Man in front of the Hodgson family, while Lorraine tried to get a hold of him. She later learned the truth about him in a vision, and then teamed up with Ed Warren to send Valak back to hell. While the demon put up a good fight, Lorraine learned that she could get rid of him by saying his name, and she then successfully managed to condemn him to hell. While Valak has seemingly disappeared for a while, he is supposed to reappear in the upcoming sequel to The Nun. Valak also has a widespread presence in mythology, and he is supposed to be the great president of hell, with over 30 legions of demons that work under his command. Besides being a terrifying entity, Valak is also a power-hungry being who goes to great lengths to terrorize his victims and drive them to insanity. He also has a wide range of powers that allow him to manipulate and create illusions that might trick his victims, and he always seems to return no matter how many times he gets defeated. Asmodeus Toby from Paranormal Activity. While this spine-chilling demon was mostly unnamed throughout the Paranormal Activity series, Christy Featherston's character finally named it Toby in the franchise's third installment. Toby was typically referred to as the demon, and his true name was finally revealed in the Book of Tobit. His real age and gender also seem to be a mystery, but he is mostly referred to as a he, and seems to be an ancient entity who appears in the form of darkened figures with long, dark hair. He first struck a deal with a few witches in the year 1930, where he offered to grant them powers in exchange for taking the soul of the next male member in their family line. After Toby granted powers such as summoning other demons, including artificial amnesia and other such powers to the witches, he patiently waited for their families to produce male heirs. However, the family did not produce male heirs, and Toby continued to haunt the family members while waiting for his promised payment. He eventually made himself known to the family members, such as Julie and her daughters, Katie and Kirsty, and the rest of the family even assumed that Toby was an imaginary friend, conjured by Christy's imagination. Eventually, Toby tried to attack Christy and kill her, but her grandmother summoned the witch coven and engaged in a ritual to get rid of him. However, the ritual ended horribly as Toby resisted it and even ended up killing Julie's boyfriend, Dennis. Toby then stopped haunting the family for a period of 30 years, after which he reappeared in their lives and continued to haunt them while waiting for a male heir. He also had a wide range of powers, ranging from teleportation to telekinesis, and he could also turn invisible. Toby could possess his victims or even use the blood of children to create a human body for himself. Samael from Hellboy. Samael, the Desolate One, also known as the Lord of Shadows, was one of the main villains in the Hellboy film. His essence was preserved and sealed within the body of a hellhound with the help of salt and crystals formed from the tears of 1,000 angels. He was also described as a son of Nurgle and had several other names, such as the Hound of Resurrection and the Seed of Destruction. He was brought to life in the film by Rasputin and his 2 disciples, who hoped that Samael would be able to kill Hellboy. Samael also could multiply himself, and it was even said that when one of him falls, 2 shall rise. Essentially, Samael could split his essence in 2, which enabled him to be reborn and grow several times. Each of these reborn Samaels could also lay eggs that would further grow into twin clones of the monster. In the Hellboy film, it is stated that the only way to destroy Samael would be by eliminating the entire cluster of eggs as well as any other clones of the creature in just one attack. Samael was also capable of engaging in combat and climbing through any surface, and he proved to be quite an undefeatable opponent. He was also quite a grotesque-looking, bloodthirsty demon who had made several attempts to kill Hellboy, and he continued to regenerate himself to finally succeed in his mission. Eventually, Hellboy's partner, Liz Sherman, manages to get rid of Samael by using her pyrokinetic abilities to incinerate Samael and his nest of eggs. Paimon from Hereditary, 2018. Paimon was one of those fallen angels who had been cast out of heaven after joining hands with Lucifer during his rebellion, and he had a cult of devout followers on Earth. Also known as King Paimon, he had a human appearance, and he was typically preceded by a bunch of ghouls who blew trumpets and announced his arrival before he appeared on screen. While Paimon had a masculine persona, he had a feminine face, and he had also been living inside Charlie Graham's body as a young girl for a very long time. Charlie's mother, Annie, was always skeptical of her own mother, Ellen Lay, who was known to be the matriarch of Paimon's cult. Ellen hoped to find a human host for King Paimon, while Annie tried to keep her children away from her antics in order to ensure their safety. While Annie manages to keep her firstborn son Peter away from his grandmother, Ellen eventually shows up in their lives and develops a close relationship with Annie's second child, Charlie. Even though Charlie is a young girl, Ellen manages to convince King Paimon to assume a physical form through her body. While Paimon feels uncomfortable in a female body, Charlie dies a tragic death, and the movie builds up to a finale where Paimon finally possesses Annie's body. The Demon King keeps getting more and more restless until he finally takes control over Peter after getting rid of both of his parents. The movie ends in a horrifying manner, where a woman named Joan assures Paimon that he is alright now, and that they have finally managed to give him a male body. While Peter accepts his fate, King Paimon comes to live within his body, while his cult worships him and hails him. While Paimon did not appear in his demonic form in the movie, he has a wide range of terrifying powers, such as the ability to reanimate the dead, create visions, and even have knowledge of the past and future. He also has quite a dedicated following, and his followers ensure that he lives on in the body of a healthy male host towards the end of the film. Conclusion. To sum it up, all these demonic entities have performed some horrific acts that have left the audience in shock at times, ranging from Pazuzu in the Exorcist franchise to Valak from The Conjuring. The presence of these demons truly elevates these horror movies and adds a lot of excitement and thrill. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.